They took her from the carrier at midnight until a submarine defied orders to save her. The night was shrouded in an eerie silence that felt almost alive. A darkness like no other cloaked the vast ocean, twisting the calm water into a sinister reflection of the moon. Suddenly, piercing lights broke through the void, sweeping across the waves like angry searchlights. Something was underway, something dangerous, and something mysterious. In the distance, the USS Triton, a formidable submarine, quietly loomed, a guardian of the unknown. But things were about to take a terrifying turn. At exactly midnight, chaos erupted on the carrier. Alarms blared, red lights flashed, and a voice echoed over the intercom with urgent dread. They had taken her. The crew wouldn't say who or what had taken the young Marine, Hannah, from her post, but whispers of shadowy figures and a secret mission swirled like a storm amidst boiling tempers and confusing orders. Tension hung thick in the air, a tangible force that coiled in their hearts. Could they save her in time? Something was off. The guards, usually steadfast and alert, trembled, fear etched on their faces. They had all heard the tales of disappearances and swarthy figures surfacing just beneath the water. It was said that something unnatural prowled the depths. Hannah's disappearance clutched at everyone's throats, a lump of terror waiting to burst. She was beloved, a fierce spirit, always ready to defend and protect, now swallowed by the dark tide. Amid the chaos, Commander Harris stood frozen, a weight anchoring his feet to the deck. If we don't act now, we might lose her forever. His voice broke through, a desperate cry against fate itself. The crew held their breath, caught in disbelief and anticipation. Could the submarine, usually a silent sentinel of the seas, truly disobey orders to plunge into the depths and bring her back? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And just as Harris made the fateful decision, the sea erupted. The monstrous form of the submarine broke surface, silhouetted against the chilling moonlight, its hatch opening to release a team of specialists dressed in dark suits and night vision goggles. They jumped into the roiling waters, disappearing below, leaving only a trail of disturbed foam behind them. The crew watched with bated breath what lay beneath. What watched them back from the depths? Time ticked away, each second feeling like an eternity. A sense of foreboding gripped the hearts of onlookers, their eyes wide, fingers tightened. What was coming next? Could they truly face the horrors beneath, or would they be too late? The air was thick with uncertainty, and a collective fear hung like a noose. They were on the precipice of something unexplainable, something that could change them all forever. The question loomed large: could they rescue Hannah before the darkness consumed her completely? The seconds stretched to an unbearable length as the crew of the carrier clung to hope. Their eyes fixed on the bubbling water where the specialists had vanished, the weight of dread wrapped around them like a suffocating shroud. Commander Harris paced the deck, worry lines deepening with each tick of his watch. "We can't just stand here," he muttered under his breath, wrestling with the gravity of the situation. "We need intel. I want every sensor running, every searchlight directed at the sea." As he barked orders, an unsettling thought gnawed at him. Had they been prepared for something like this? Were they equipped to face whatever evil lay beneath? Goosebumps prickled his skin at the memory of whispered stories around the barracks of men lost to the depths, forgotten by all but the darkness. He shook his head, forcing those thoughts away. They had to focus. Hannah was counting on them. Suddenly, one of the crew shouted, breaking the spell of anxiety gripping the group. "Commander! The sonar's picking up something." A massive echo bounced back from the ocean floor, sending shivers down their spines. It flickered across the screen, a shape, moving, gliding seamlessly through the water. Harris leaned closer, squinting at the blinking display, feeling a current of anger and adrenaline coursing through his veins. "What is it? Can you zoom in?" His voice came out sharper than intended. But the answer didn't come fast enough. Just then, a piercing scream shattered the night. The crew turned, eyes wide, hearts racing. It came from the direction of the hatch. One of the specialists had returned, his face pale, eyes wide with terror. They're down there. He gasped, the words tumbling out as he fought to catch his breath. I saw them. Shadowy figures, they were watching her. A murmur spread through the crew, each heart pounding like a war drum. Harris felt it too, the dread creeping in, the shadows circling. How many? Harris asked, voice steady despite the fear skittering in his gut. The specialist shook his head wildly, I don't know. There were too many to count, and he gulped. Hannah was fighting. She was alive. A flicker of hope ignited in the crew's chest, but it was quickly drowned by a tidal wave of fear. The thought of Hannah, alone and fighting, ignited an inferno within Harris. We're going in after her. Now. He turned, adrenaline spiking through his veins as he shouted orders. Crewmates hesitated, exchanging worried glances, unsure if they could truly face what waited beneath. Listen up. We owe it to her. We all know her. Whatever those things are, we're not leaving her behind. Determination surged through the group. They rallied, geared up, a new resolve solidifying their bond. They would go into the depths, into the unknown to rescue Hannah. The seconds dragged as they boarded the rescue submarine, the hatch sealing shut before them. The world above faded from view as they slipped beneath the surface, darkness enveloping them like a shroud. The lights flickered to life, illuminating the oppressive murk around them. Peering out into the abyss, their hearts raced. What lay ahead? Would Hannah still be alive, fighting off creatures of the deep? Just then, a loud thud reverberated through the submarine. The crew jumped, anxiety spiking again. What was that? A voice crackled through the comms. Commander, we're picking up something. Directly ahead. As the submarine moved deeper into the shadows, fear and urgency thickened the air. They were about to uncover a secret that would shake them to their core, a dark truth they might not survive to tell. But one thought loomed over them all: would they find Hannah in time, or was it already too late? The submarine glided through the dark waters, vibrations echoing from the hull. The crew's faces were a mix of determination and dread, each heartbeat sounding like a ticking clock counting down to something inevitable. As Harris peered through the small viewports, the murky depths revealed little, only shadows dancing just beyond the reach of the sub's feeble lights. Keep scanning. We need to locate her fast. Harris commanded, every word stealing their resolve. His voice, though firm, shook with unspoken fear. He could feel himself grasping at straws, fighting against the clutching panic in the pit of his stomach. Suddenly, the sonar operator's voice pierced through the tense atmosphere. Commander. The shape is moving. It's coming closer. His fingers flew over the controls, desperation etched deep on his face. Harris squinted at the screen, heart racing as a massive figure loomed larger. What the hell is that? Panic flickered in his eyes. The shape twisted and turned with disorientating fluidity, like a shadow brought to life. In that moment, chills skittered up Harris's spine. An instinctual part of him screamed to turn back, yet didn't he dare voice it. He couldn't leave Hannah behind. Hold steady. We need to see more. But what they saw next sent daggers of fear into their hearts. The shape split into smaller forms, darting in and out of the increasing murk. The sub's lights caught a glinting surface, a flash of an eye, a twist of limbs. The crew gasped collectively, a chilling realization settling like lead in their chests. Those are creatures, whispered one of the crew, voice trembling. What the hell are those things? Harris clenched his fists, forcing himself to breathe. Zack, increase the power to the forward lights. As the sub's lights brightened, the shadows converged, revealing writhing, sinewy bodies with long, spindly limbs. They were like nightmares personified, their skin translucent, revealing the dark, shifting fluids beneath. Harris's heart raced with a suffocating dread. What were these things? Commander. The sonar operator's voice broke through the frantic rush. They're pushing back. I think they sense us. Just as he said it, the ship jolted violently as if something had slammed against its hull. The lights flickered ominously, their illuminating glow fading like a heartbeat. Status report. Harris shouted, panic creeping into his voice. It's not good, sir. We're taking on water. We need to abort. No. Harris's voice startled them all, determination hardening his features. We're not leaving. He forced his gaze back to the murky depths that hid Hannah. If she was fighting to stay alive, they would fight too. In that instant, the lights sputtered back to life, revealing the creatures circling the sub, their bodies weaving a dance of both intelligence and malice. Harris's breath caught in his throat. Were they waiting? Watching? Planning their next move? A sudden, deafening crack reverberated through the hull, each crew member's heart leaping as fear drowned out all reason. This was no ordinary mission, they had awakened something ancient, something that wanted more than to guard its territory. Harris gripped the control panel, adrenaline coursing through him. Full reverse. Get us out of here. The ship trembled as the crew scrambled. But even as they fought to disengage, the darkness outside thickened, concealing whatever horrors lurked just beyond sight. Had they only found Hannah's rescue, or Tambien unleashed a nightmare? And then came the whispers, a chorus rising from the shadows, slithering into their fear. We're coming. How much worse could this get? The reality of their situation spiraled, the weight of their choices bearing down like an anchor. Harris realized they hadn't just come into the dark, they had tethered themselves to it, and whatever awakened now hungered for more. Now they were facing a clock ticking down to a final, heart-stopping exchange. Would they save Hannah, or would they become the newest victims of the deep? Fueled by desperation, Harris made a decision, but all too soon, he wondered, was it the right one? The truth they sought lay just beyond their grasp, ready to unravel everything they thought they knew. In the depths of the abyss, they were not alone. The sub lurched violently again, the sound of grinding metal echoing through the cramped interior like a war cry. Harris's pulse raced. The creatures were relentless, their ghostly forms colliding against the hull, probing, searching for a way in. Seal off the aft compartments. He barked, realizing that desperation had morphed into a battle for survival. If those horrors breached the sub, all hope would be lost. The crew, moving under an unspoken urgency, scrambled for the emergency controls, their faces painted with terror and resolve. We're losing power. Zack shouted, his fingers a blur across the panels. The lights flickered once more, oscillating between illuminating and plunging them into unsettling darkness. Harris's heart sank as he watched their flickering glow dance chaotically, mirroring his rising dread. Hold it together. He called out, forcing steadiness into his voice. We need those lights. Just then, a loud thud reverberated through the sub. It felt like a foreboding announcement rather than just a noise. Harris turned to the sonar operator, whose face was ashen. Commander, the creatures, they're moving as if they're orchestrated. It's like they're communicating. The thought struck Harris like a dagger. Were they coordinated? A group mind? Horrifyingly intelligent? He pushed aside the gut-wrenching fear that threatened to swallow him whole. Launch a flare. He ordered, a desperate gamble taking root in his mind. Maybe we can scare them off. Zack's eyes widened. Sir, we don't know what else they might do. It could drive them into a frenzy. But Harris was beyond reason, the need to fight was primal. Do it. Zack hesitated only a moment before obeying, and a bright burst of light exploded outside the sub, cutting through the thick, inky water like a knife. For a fleeting second, the dark water lit up, revealing a swarm of glimmering eyes darting back. They halted, hissing en masse, their forms momentarily visible, grotesque and hypnotic in their elegance. Gasps filled the cabin. Harris felt a surge of hope. Maybe the flare affected them, sent them retreating. But in a heartbeat, that hope shattered as the shadows coalesced, becoming a darker, more menacing mass. "Commander!" the sonar operator exclaimed, voice cracking. "They're regrouping. It looks like a net." Panic reasserted itself in Harris's gut. "We're trapped." He breathed, the cold truth emanating from the sonar readings. The creatures were creating a living wall, a shroud of darkness that would soon consume them all. "Cut the lights. We need to blend in." He fought to remain calm even as his heart thundered like a war drum. Zack quickly switched off the power, plunging them into complete blackness. Silence enveloped the sub, thick and suffocating. The crew held their breath, every man and woman straining to make sense of what was happening. The absence of light rendered them vulnerable, but perhaps it was their only lifeline. Harris strained to hear, desperate for any sign of movement. As the seconds dragged on, he wondered if they were too late. Then came the whispers again, weaving through the darkness, carrying an unsettling chill. "Come play with us, let us show you." A shiver ran down his spine, eliciting a tremble in his hands. What price would they pay to escape the abyss? Just as he was about to voice his order, the whole sub shuddered violently again, unnaturally fierce. Harris's heart dropped as he realized the figures outside had closed the distance. What if this was it? Before he had the chance to react, the vessel began sliding sideways as if pulled by an unseen force. "Hold on!" Harris shouted, bracing himself as the crew instinctively strapped into their seats, terror painted on their faces. Then, a blinding light shot through the water again, but this time it was not from a flare. No, it was far worse. Emerging from the deep, a massive, ancient creature broke the surface, pulsating with an eerie glow. The sub quaked, caught in its gaze, and Harris's breath hitched. "Something is coming," he whispered, utterly shaken, as the enormity of their mistake crashed down on him, but what they didn't realize was, darkness only thrived on fear. And this was far, far from over. The sub lurched again, the metallic groan a mournful cry through the tense silence. Harris's instincts kicked into overdrive. They were losing ground to whatever this thing was. He could feel the cold seep into his bones, settling with chilling certainty that their time was running out. "Zack, the engines. Can we push them harder?" Harris shouted, urgency lacing his voice. Though the power levels flickered ominously, there was still a flicker of potential. Desperation clawed at him, their only option was to escape before the encroaching darkness swallowed them whole. "We could breach the red line," Zack protested, fear gripping his features. "If we increase the thrust too much, do it," Harris snapped. "We need that power now." With a nod, Zack regained his focus, fingers dancing across the console with fevered determination. For a heartbeat, the cabin filled with anticipation, a palpable electricity, a sliver of hope. Maybe they could outpace the darkness, the sub grunted as the engines roared. Harris felt adrenaline coursing through him as their speed increased. But the moment of triumph collapsed as the otherworldly light flooded back, bathing the interior in an eerie glow. "Commander!" "It knows," the sonar operator gasped, panic etched on his face. "The creature, it's tracking us." From the depths, a chorus of low, resonating growls unfurled, echoing through the metal walls like thunder. Harris closed his eyes, willing himself to think clearly. The creature had become the predator, and they the prey. "Brace yourselves. Prepare for evasive maneuvers," he barked, his voice barely rising above the din. Every bit of training surged to the forefront of his mind, urging the crew to focus. Suddenly, the sub jerked violently, yanked sideways as if a massive hand had reached through the ocean to grasp them. Crew members flew from their seats, gasps morphing into screams as gear and bodies tumbled in the chaos. "Hold tight!" Harris managed to shout, tightening his grip on the console. He was lost in the electrifying fray of uncertainty, the crew's faces twisted in fear and disbelief. Then came a thought sharp as glass, cutting through the chaos. what if this creature was not just an enemy? What if it was trying to warn them? But warning them of what? Could we communicate? The sonar operator stammered, his hands trembling on the sonar panel. We don't have time for that. Harris barked back, even as a nagging guilt clawed at him. Did they truly have no other choice? The whispers from the darkness pulsed through him again. Join us, let us show you, cut the noise. He screamed, but the siren lure of the voice became unbearable. Get us out of here. Now. With his heart racing, Harris closed his eyes, pushing aside the shadows of doubt. Maybe they needed to confront what lay before them instead of fleeing in fear. Maybe the net was a trap but also a chance and escape into the unknown. Get ready to slow down. He shouted. The crew froze, disbelief pulsing through the cabin. Are you crazy? Zack yelled back, but Harris could see the question hanging in the air. There was no time to waste. With every ounce of willpower, Harris made the call that would change everything. Cut the engine. We're stopping. As the engines went silent, the darkness deepened around them, as if they had stepped off a precipice. The eerie glow pulsed, flickering like the heartbeat of a colossal beast. Then they waited. Every second stretched into eternity, the silence pressing against them like a physical force. A presence brushed against them, a cold wind from the water, palpable and breathing. Harris gasped, heart in his throat, the realization dawning. A calm voice, softer now, beckoned from the shadows. Welcome. The crew collectively held their breath as eyes wide with dread mirrored Harris's thoughts. What had they just done? And then, through the darkness, emerged a shape even more magnificent than before, its features illuminated in a dance of surreal lights. Its eyes, ancient pools of wisdom, locked onto Harris, demanding his submission, his understanding, fear and clarity mixed into a chaotic blend within him. What would happen next? But before he could grasp a thought, a piercing scream shattered the silence. A member of the crew had vanished behind them, drawn into the unknown depths. No! Harris shouted, realizing their true nightmare had only just begun. Harris's heart raced as the reality of their new nightmare crashed over him like a tidal wave. The shriek of panic still echoed in his ears, but scarier than that was the sudden absence of the crew member who had simply vanished moments before. Cameron! He yelled, hoping against hope that the darkness would return him. This is not happening. Zack stammered, eyes darting toward the cabin's back where the darkness now held dominion. The eerie glow pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing Harris toward it like a moth to flame. We need to move. We have to know. Harris interrupted, cutting through the rising tide of fear that wrapped around them like a noose. We can't just run blind. We need to find Cameron. What if we're the next ones to disappear? The sonar operator whimpered, his trembling hands now sweating profusely. The shadows shifted, swirling like a storm. Join us, it beckoned again, a voice now hauntingly familiar. The cold prickle across Harris's skin intensified. It was as if the darkness itself was waiting, anticipating their next move, but he wasn't willing to surrender to fear, not yet. Gathering the crew's confidence, he steeled himself. Zack, I know it's a long shot, but can you get sonar back online? We need to understand what is happening around us. With a nod, Zack focused back on his console, fingers flying over buttons as he fought the tired machinery to respond. Harris steeled himself and moved toward the back, hoping to find any trace of Cameron. Stay close. He ordered the others, sensing the desperation weighing heavily in the tight space. He felt their fear weighing down on him, clinging like wet clothes. The voice sang again, mixing with the oppressive silence of the sub. Join us. Harris felt an unearthly force wrap around him, its tendrils giving him an unsettling sense of calm. No. Don't listen to it. He shouted, shoving his hands into his ears. This isn't a game, this is survival. A faint beeping jolted him, a signal echoing through the sonic haze. Zack had the sonar up. Commander, something is moving toward us. Fast. Fear dripped from his voice. What is it? Harris demanded, stepping closer to the sonar display, trying to make sense of the data flashing across the screen. Zack swallowed hard. It's huge, Commander. It's right next to us. The sub shook suddenly, a violent tremor rippling through the metal like a monster-esque growl. Harris clenched his fists, heart pounding as the lights flickered above, the glow outside swelling. Hold on. He yelled, gripping the handrails as the sub lurched again, but this time it wasn't the creature's intervention. The machinery shuddered, revealing appearing cracks on the control panel. We're losing power. Zack shouted, panic coloring his tone. If we don't, then we'll make our stand here. Harris exclaimed, not willing to buckle under any threat. The crew was too disoriented, too afraid to move. We find Cameron, we find a way to survive. Just as he felt their resolve begin to build, the monstrous silhouette appeared on the sonar, drawing incredibly close. Harris's breath caught. It wasn't simply monstrous, it felt sentient, intelligent. What had they unleashed? Then, from the depths of the dark water, eyes illuminated with glimmers of light reflected back at them, a multitude of them. The shape moved through the water like liquid shadow, closing in with deliberate intent. We need to go. Zack screamed, slamming buttons in a frenzied attempt to regain control. It's going to, but before he could finish, the screen lit up with furious intensity. A spine-tingling roar erupted around them, shaking the walls, drowning out their thoughts. The lights flickered ominously, and Harris felt a sickening dread settle in his gut. Get ready. Whatever that is, it's coming for us. The crew braced themselves, aware now that they were not simply prey, they were part of a dark game orchestrated in the depths, and the stakes were higher than any of them had bargained for. From the shadows, the haunting voice returned, more insistent than ever. Join us, relinquish your fear as the pressure. Mounted and reality twisted, Harris realized with dawning horror that the choice he had made wouldn't just define their fate, it could unleash something much darker and far worse than he had ever imagined. What if letting go was the only way out? The monstrous entity drew closer, a heartbeat away, and Harris felt something slipping from his grasp. Was it his sanity, or was it something far worse? With a final glance at his bewildered crew, he asked aloud, "Are we ready to fight to the last breath?" And in that moment, as he stared down the face of an unknown terror, he knew nothing would ever be the same again. The sub writhed under the pressure, twisting and turning as if alive. Harris caught the terrified expressions on his crew's faces, eyes wide and frantic, mouth slightly agape. They were frozen in place, trapped in a web of paralyzing dread. The roar intensified, vibrating through their bodies. It was coming from outside, a lament mingled with a threat. We need to move. Now. He barked, urgency propelling his voice into the chaos. Zack was still hunched over his console, sweat beading on his forehead. I can't, the power is failing. He hit the buttons violently, hands shaking, desperation dripping from his voice. The screens flickered again, black and white images of what lay beyond flashing in and out of existence. Harris felt a disorienting spin in his gut. Focus, Zack. We can't give up. Harris urged, his voice steady despite the storm frothing around them. He had to be their anchor, the force that kept them from the abyss. They didn't have a choice. Cameron was out there, lost somewhere in the dark, and if they didn't act now, they would be too. Here. An engineer shouted, pointing to a hatch leading further back into the sub. If anything's getting in, we can lock ourselves in the control room. It'll buy us time. No. Harris shouted, shaking his head vehemently. We're not leaving Cameron behind. It's now or never. Thunderous pounding echoed from the depths, racing against Harris's heartbeat. He glanced over his shoulder, the monstrous shadow was almost upon them. Faint patterns of bioluminescence glimmered just beyond the viewport, dancing with predatory intent. He felt his skin crawl, every instinct screaming for safety. But he couldn't abandon his crew member. He refused. Zack, get that sonar running again. Find Cameron. The operator gritted his teeth and slammed the last button. I'll try. He bit down on his fear, staring at the screen. The device whirred and sputtered, fighting to re-establish a connection. Then, slowly, a blip appeared, faint but unmistakable. There. It's some distance heading towards us. It's moving fast. Sucking in a breath, Harris narrowed his focus. Is it Cameron? I don't know. We need to hurry. The roar outside escalated. A mass crashed against the hull, metal shrieking in protest. The sub lurched violently, throwing them against the walls. Harris scrambled for balance, heart racing. Every moment torn between fear and determination blurred in a tide of chaos that he charged to the back, fueled by adrenaline. The shadows flickered and danced around him. It felt like something terrible lurked just beyond view, waiting. It wasn't just the urgency of rescuing Cameron, it was the malevolence binding their fates. Through the chaos, he saw Zack furiously mashing buttons behind him. We need backup power. If we can stabilize, I can. Forget stabilization. Cut all excess systems. Harris ordered, his voice cutting through the storm. We need every bit of energy channel to get us out of here. Zack paused, eyes wide. Are you serious? If we do that, it's our only shot. The shadows twisted thickly around them as they raced against time. Do it. Harris shouted, conviction pouring through him. Zack swallowed visibly, knelt down desperate. Commander. Here goes nothing. The lights flickered, and the room hummed ominously as the energy coalesced. A moment slipped into silence, then, a brilliant surge. The console flared back to life, filling the space with a fierce glow. I've got something. Zack shouted. Echoing, it's still there. Harris's heart soared. Is it Cameron? Not sure, but it's approaching. The walls convulsed again, the entity outside battering their defenses like a relentless predator. The lights suddenly flashed red, an indicator of a critical breach. It looks like it's a fight now or never. Zack cried, fingers poised over the buttons, fear blending with determination. Keep it steady. Get a focus on, but before he could finish, the light sputtered. They flickered once, twice. Harris felt the dread settle back in his gut, heavier than before. Come on. Zack panicked, his pleas lost under another earth-shaking roar. Is it collapsing? I can't control it. In that agonizing instant, Harris felt a sudden, chilling clarity. Their world had shifted beyond the norm. They were waging war against something primal and ancient. They could survive, but would it come at a cost far greater than they could bear? Cameron. He called out, hoping against hope. Something shivered in the back of his mind. The shadows thrummed louder, teasing what was hidden beneath. And then there it was, a flash of movement, a figure draped in flickering light darted through the shadows. Cameron. The voice echoed again, distant yet close. Join us. Harris's heart sank. Was it truly his friend, or had the darkness claimed him too? The decision hung before them: step deeper into the shadows, or fight against the tempting pull of the unknown. Brace yourselves. Harris warned, as a force slammed against the hull with violent fury. Whatever it is, it's about to break through. As they confronted the unimaginable, hope wavered. Would they find Cameron, or would they, too, be consumed? Silence settled in the space, a moment suspended in time. Harris gripped the railings, knuckles white, determination hardening into a resolve stronger than fear. Before them loomed the abyss. Would they dare leap into it? The choice loomed, and with it, a new kind of terror. They had to decide quickly: how could they strike back against darkness that beckoned with the promise of unity? And then, in the depths, a scream pierced through, chilling them to the marrow. Help! With their hearts pounding louder than the entity battering them, the crew braced for the confrontation of their lives. It was their last chance. What would they do? Would they risk it all or remain shackled to fear? The walls shuddered violently as the sound of snapping metal echoed in the confined space. Harris steadied himself, heart racing, each thud against the hull a reminder of the impending doom. It was as if the sub had a pulse, thumping against the pressure, wrestling with the dark entity that entrapped them. "Cameron. Are you with us?" The command slipped from his lips, strained but hopeful. "Join us." The voice was back, echoing through the darkness, its allure more potent than ever. It was not just Cameron's voice, it was an invitation that hummed with promise, a pull towards something beyond understanding. "Commander!" Zack shouted, jolted from the moment by the dimming lights. "It's losing power. We can't hold on much longer." Each word laced with urgency and doubt made Harris's stomach twist. "Then we need to go. Now." Harris barked, gripping the edge of the console as another crash rocked their world. Zack's fingers flew over the controls, desperate to stabilize their situation. "If we don't focus on escaping, whatever's out there will breach us." Harris hesitated. He felt the weight of their choices settle like a stone in his gut. Rescue Cameron or save themselves? But there was no choice in his mind. "We fight for Cameron. We can't abandon him. Cameron!" He yelled again, pushing through that chilling call. "Hold on." But it came again, brighter, clearer. "Join us." The shadows seemed to coalesce into a form, flickering just beyond the viewport, a figure outlined against the darkness. "What if that's not him?" Zack's voice wavered, battling between fear and hope. "Are you going to abandon your friend?" "I want." Harris shouted, his resolve hardening. They had to make a choice now, dive deeper into the blackness or flee into the uncertain safety of the water. The lights flickered again, casting jagged shadows that danced like ghosts in a torrential storm. "I'll keep redirecting power, but we have to make it work." Zack cried, determination mingling with dread. The roar rose to a lunatic crescendo, ripping through their ears as the hull vibrated, protesting under the relentless assault from the outside. "Prepare for impact," Harris shouted, bracing for the worst as the sub howled and cracked like thunder. The control panel blinked ominously. "Systems failing. I don't know how long we can last." Gripped by terror and adrenaline, Harris shot a glance toward Zack. "If this is it, we go down fighting. I won't leave here without Cameron." The haunting voice of their friend morphed into a wail. "Help! Help me!" The scream merged with the chaos. The very fabric of reality split, teetering on the edge of some nameless abyss. Harris's chest tightened. "Zack! We hold fast. Keep everything powered to the stabilizers." "Trying." Sweat dripped from Zack's brow, mixing with the fear etched on his face. "But I don't know how much longer we can resist this." Harris's heart faltered. They were nearing the brink. "We have to make a choice. Fight or flee." He yelled, scanning the terrified faces of his crew. Their eyes reflected his own turmoil. They were danced between the desperate hope of rescue and the terrifying pull of submission. "Cameron!" He called out, his voice straining against the growing chaos. "If you can hear me, fight back." A ghostly silhouette darted closer, a figure cloaked in shadows, glimmering faintly. It felt like something was awakening, clawing at the darkness. "Commander!" Zack's voice was a thin whisper. "I'm almost through to the security feed." We can see. A deafening shriek shattered the air. The front viewport cracked. The pressure surged and the lights blinked out, plunging them into a darkness that swallowed sound. "Hold on!" Harris barked, his hands clenching the console before him. The world spun. The echo of the ship as struggling against its captor rang through the void. And then came silence, dripping with tension. With a single flicker, the emergency lights burst to life, illuminating their desperate reality. The figure was there, closer now. It wasn't just a silhouette, it was a bridge between worlds. A terrible, dreadful beauty shone through the Murky shadows, tempting and haunting. Help us. A voice, familiar yet distorted, pierced through the darkness. Join us. Harris's heart raced as the undeniable truth reared its head. What lay before them was a choice deeper and darker than death itself. Warmth intertwined with despair, the line between salvation and madness blurred as the depths beckoned. Zack. Now. Harris prepared himself to dive straight into the void. But a new surge of energy wavered from the unseen menace beyond the fractured hull, of vibrancy that felt almost alive. Do it. Harris urged, resolve solidified by the inklings of hope. The choice lay ahead of them, a threshold of light and darkness cradled in their hands. But as he charged, a frigid darkness swept through the space. Join us echoed again, deeper this time, enveloping them all. Harris could feel it, the abyss was reaching for him, but there was one last chance to fight back. With everything he had, he roared back, no more. We decry your darkness. In that moment, the walls trembled, light and shadow converged. Would they emerge from this deadly dance unscathed, or would they fall? As the shadows deepened, a voice whispered from the recesses. You will never escape. Join us. The decision loomed, a catalyst for the impending chaos. Would they risk their very souls or succumb to the lurking call of the dark? The darkness pressed in on all sides, thick and palpable, like a living thing wrapped around Harris and his crew. Every inhale felt heavy with dread, choking down on the hope he clung to. The chilling echo of that voice still reverberated in his mind, pulling at something deep within him. Join us, stay together. He shouted, his voice barely breaking through the suffocating gloom. The commendation pushed his men tighter, closer together, like passengers in the eye of a storm afraid to lose one another in the chaos. Zack's fingers danced over the flashing controls, his expression a mix of fear and resolution. We're not done yet. If I can redirect the power to the aft thrusters, we might still have a chance. As the midnight gloom swallowed them up, Harris could almost see the glint of determination in Zack's eyes. It was a flicker that promised resistance. It sparked hope even as the surrounding shadows whispered promises of surrender. Do it. Harris yelled, his urgency cutting through the rising tide of despair. We've got to move, now. The crew was on high alert, heartbeats pounding in rhythm with the vibrations of the hull. Each tremor felt like a countdown. As Zack worked feverishly at the controls, Harris's eyes darted to the viewport. Something dark stirred beyond the glass, a mass of tendrils shifting in their haunting choreography. It was as if the abyss itself was alive, reaching, beckoning, hungry. Cameron. Harris roared again, hoping against hope that their friend could hear him. Fight back. You're not alone. From the dark sea beyond, the voice returned, sultry and enticing. Join us. It slithered through the cabin like smoke, wrapping around their minds, squeezing tighter. Don't listen to it. Zack shouted back, biting off each syllable, trying to ground them in reality. It's trying to trick us. Stay focused. The emergency lights cast ghostly shadows across their faces. Harris could see Zack's jaw set in determination, but his hands trembled with the weight of the impossible task ahead. They were teetering on the edge of an abyss that stretched on forever, and something about the way the figure danced in the dark felt like an omen. Systems fluctuating. Zack called out, urgency rising in his voice as alarms blared. We can't take much more. There at the hull a shattering slam echoed through the submarine, reverberating in Harris's bones. The walls shuddered again, but this time it felt different, like teeth grinding, bones cracking. Reality writhed in disarray, the line between them and the shadow thinning. The figure outside coalesced further, now more defined. A face, twisted and familiar, gazed back at them. Help us. Cameron's face emerged from the depths, but it wasn't quite him. No. Harris's scream broke free, raw with panic. Cameron, resist. It's not you. This isn't real. Join us, echoed the voice of their friend, the finality of it slicing through them, heavier than steel. The dark seemed to beckon like an old friend, ready to embrace them in its cold grasp. Zack was on the verge of tears, desperation lacing his tone. "Commander, I can't hold this much longer. Every second we waste focus. We're making it out." Harris's voice seized the moment, forging a path through the doubt. "We'll breach this darkness or die trying." With a surge of defiance, Harris lunged towards the main console, hand on the emergency override. The rush of adrenaline blinded him to fear, a desperate hope igniting in his chest. We take the fight to them now. They needed a plan. As the shadows engulfed them, something surged from within, a primal instinct to survive, to save Cameron, to defy the darkness that clawed at their souls, but as he prepared to make the jump, the shadows pulsated violently, the darkness roared back. A collective breath held in disbelief. "You'll be ours soon." And then, just as Harris felt light slip away, a voice broke through the noise, sharp and clear. "Commander! Look!" It was Zack, pointing out the viewport, his finger trembling like the rest of him. It was then that the true horror hit Harris. What lay just beyond their fragile vessel was not just darkness. It was a multitude, countless forms writhing and shifting, a tide of nightmares just waiting to drag them under. Panic surged through him like a tidal wave. "What are those?" With dread tightening his chest, Harris prepared for the imminent onslaught. They needed more than courage, they needed a miracle. "Hold on to each other," he shouted. "This isn't over yet." But as layered shadows closed in, enveloping everything in despair, he realized they were on the precipice of a decision that could reshape their fate. What would it take to break free? Would they succumb to the dark or fight until their last breath? As they waited for an answer, the pulse of the unknown drew near, promising riches but ready to swallow them whole. Would they find hope in despair or be lost in the shadows forever? The tension was unbearable, wrapping around the crew like a vice. The submarine shook violently, responding to the cacophony of the outside world. Harris's heart raced in synchrony with the thunderous roars of the entity outside. They were being called into the depths of despair. The voice, a siren's call, an echo of lost dreams, rippled through the air, pushing against each of them, threatening to ensnare their very souls. "Cameron!" Harris cried, trying to drown out the haunting allure. He could feel his hope wavering. The solid weight in his chest transformed into a consuming worry. "Hold on. We're coming for you." Zack was shaking, hands flying over the controls, battling against the tempest around them. "We're still losing power. If we can't stabilize, redirect everything to the main engine. We have to break free." Harris shouted, never taking his eyes from the swirling shadows outside. They had to push forward, they had to fight. There was still a chance, a glimmer of hope among the shadows. The lights flickered again, threatening to plunge them into darkness. From the viewport, the writhing mass of entities twisted menacingly. There was no time. "Now, Zack." Zack nodded, gripping the controls with newfound resolve. He redirected the power, and for a moment, the humming energy filled the vessel, pushing back against the dark. The sub surged forward, breaking through the tumultuous waves of shadows. But just as they gained momentum, the entity's silhouette loomed closer, casting long tendrils that slipped through the cracks of the hull, reaching for them. Harris pressed his eyes shut, feeling the chill seep into his bones, his instincts screaming to dive deeper into safety. But his heart pounded with the urgency of camaraderie. They wouldn't leave Cameron behind. "Keep going, keep pushing," Harris urged, his determination palpable, each word a lifeline against the impending doom. And then, through the chaos, something extraordinary happened. A pulse of light erupted from the deep, illuminating the dark shadows for an instant. "Do you see that?" Zack almost shouted, disbelief painting his features. The shapes paused, twitched, and recoiled, as if that burst of light struck a chord within their being. "There! That's Cameron!" Harris yelled, a flash of hope igniting within him. The figure surged forth, drawing close but moving erratically, as if battling against the current of the darkness. "Cameron, fight back!" Harris felt the urgency mount inside him. They were almost there, they could save him. Zack, set a course. We can break through. I'm trying. Zack gasped, fingers trembling over the controls. But it's like they're blocking our path. Every second felt like an eternity. Cameron's figure flickered on the sonar, caught in the battle with the dark entities. Harris felt tears threaten to spill, not for fear but from the sheer weight of having to withstand this nightmare. Listen to me, Cameron. You're not alone. Harris shouted, mustering every ounce of strength. He wasn't ready to give in, not when Cameron's voice began to break through the allure of darkness. Resist. We'll find you. As the creature bellowed again, darkness surged, pushing back against the sub with ferocity. It pounded against the hull, cracking seams and sending vibrations through every crevice of the vessel. Panic pulsed dangerously close to the surface. Zack, now. Harris barked again, desperation flowing through every word. On it. Redirecting everything to the thrusters. Zack screamed, his face pale, determination stark against the backdrop of fear. The sub jumped forward, battling its way through the assault. Light pulsed against the murky depths, illuminating a path through the suffocating black. The shadows writhed, their tendrils attempting to re-establish their dark hold, but it was too late. The crew's combined will swelled against it. We can do this. Harris shouted, adrenaline coursing through him. The glow intensified. Push through or die trying. And with that unified cry for survival, the sub jolted one last time, displacing the darkness that churned around them. In that moment the light pierced through the shadows with blinding intensity. It illuminated everything, flesh twisted with malevolent intent, faces both familiar and foreign caught in a myriad of entrapped souls. The pushback was almost unbearable, fear and hope clashing in a visceral storm. A blinding burst erupted from the sub, sending a wave through the depths as they tore a path forward, ignited by their resolve. But it wasn't just light that surged, it was unity, a testament to friendship, courage, and the primal desire to survive. They would not be consumed, not today. Here. Zack shouted, heart racing. I can see him. He's right there. He pointed excitedly toward the murky mass. Cameron. Harris shouted, gripping the railing, determination warring against the cool brush of despair. Take my hand. Emerging from the tangle of darkness, Cameron broke through, his body catching the last glimmers of light. He looked disoriented, but alive, his eyes sparkled with pleading. The darkness lashed out, snapping like a wild thing, but the crew's volume surged louder than its calls. Fight it. You're not alone. Echoed through the sub. Cameron staggered toward them, arms flailing, and in an instant, a rush of power surged through the sub. Harris reached out, grasping Cameron's arm. We've got you. With a fierce pull, they yanked him in, the darkness howling in protest behind. Bodies collided. There was a moment of breath shared, full of hope before they turned sharply back toward the controls. Full throttle. Harris yelled, and the sub responded, the engines roaring back to life. The shadows writhed in fury as they fled, angry cries cascading behind them, fading further and further. The pulse of the dark faded, dragging back, repelled by the light they had ignited in one another. The crew breathed desperately, triumphantly, raggedly. They emerged back into the open sea, the night lost to the echo of their rebirth. Did we make it? Cameron's voice wavered, hope igniting his words. Yeah, Harris replied, voice full of warmth. Yeah, we made it. The crew rallied around one another, tears mingling with laughter and relief, the tension finally broken. They had faced the abyss and survived, sewn tighter by adversity, consumed not by the darkness but by the light of each other's spirit. In that moment, beneath the blanket of stars twinkling through the horizon, they understood something profound. Darkness thrives on isolation, but in unity, even the darkest horrors can be shattered into fragments of light. As they steered the sub into the night, familiarity returned, but something else lingered, a new awareness. This was their way home, a journey shared, forged through the fire of the unknown and birthed from a defiance of darkness. They wouldn't just be survivors, they would carry the story with them, the tale of how hope finds a way, even through the deepest abyss. Now, it's time for you to step up. Don't let this pulse of adventure end here. You need to subscribe now to stay immersed in the next exclusive stories we've got lined up. And smash that like button now to fuel our growth. This is the moment to show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and feelings about this electrifying conclusion. What were your thoughts on the darkness? Did you think they would succeed? And don't hesitate. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling journey. Don't wait even one more second. Your support keeps this community alive and thriving.